What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journos, Comics, and Pop Culture, and today is the day we are counting down numbers 10 through 1 of the top 50 key comics to invest in for under $50. If you all haven't checked out the first 4 installments of this video series, I highly recommend you do so. But here today is the final installment. The way it works is, as we get lower on the list, the more these books have increased in value over the last few years. So I'm super excited to get into these last 10 books. Of course, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so. Check out all the awesome links below. And today we have another giveaway to hand out to one lucky winner for my 10K sub giveaway. We have a $50 gift card to mycomicshop.com. For those that watch my channel, I talk about mycomicshop.com all the time. So a big thank you to them for sponsoring this video in this giveaway. All you need to do in order to have a chance to win that $50 gift card is be subscribed to the channel, click the notification bell, and hit that like button, and comment below letting me know that you are subscribed to Journos, Comics, and Pop Culture. On top of that, I'm going to be asking a trivia question somewhere in this video today. If you leave the answer to that trivia question in your comment as well, you are going to get an extra entry into the giveaway today. So I want to wish everyone good luck in the contest. And remember, we are still giving away countless other prizes over the next couple of weeks on the road to that 10K mark. So are we ready to get into the top 10 50 under? So are we ready to get into the top 10 of the 50 under 50? Here we go. We've got Fantastic Four number 211. This is the first appearance of Terrax, the Tamer. This guy's a beast. Another Herald of Galactus that I think has great opportunity of showing up in the MCU, but just overall a really, really fantastic character. Let's look at these numbers. Current 9.2 CGC fair market value is sitting at about $184. Next to 3 years ago in 2019, where it was sitting at about $67. That is a 3-year increase of 175%. And as I always say, folks, fair market value is a rolling average. It's not an exact science. So you always have to take it with a grain of salt, as it can fluctuate and change day to day, week to week, and so forth. Now let's look at this average raw, because the average raw is where you're going to get that $50 and under mark for these books. $23 for an average raw. So again, for a Bronze Age book, you're just taking in all the sales, calculating the total dollar amount sold, dividing it by the units of books sold. That's how you get your average raw. You could probably find a nice solid mid-grade, higher mid-grade for that $23 mark. But hey, look, I always say it's inevitable that we're going to see Galactus in the MCU at some point. There's a lot of awesome heralds that could show up as well. All right, moving on to number 9. We had to get some Wolverine love in the top 10 here. I always talk about these Wolverine number 1 books, and this is Wolverine number 1, volume 2, the first ongoing series of Wolverine, the first appearance of Wolverine as Patch as well. Now looking at this current 9.4 CGC fair market value sitting at 160. Next to 3 years ago, 58. Solid increase of 176%, with an average raw sitting right there at that $50 mark. So this is a late 80s book. You know, you could probably find a nice higher mid-grade, fine plus looking book, I would assume, for around that $50 mark. Again, I'm just going off the top of my head as a rough estimate. But again, this book has been moving on the market over the last couple of years. A lot of these other minor key books for Wolverine have been picking up, because of course all of his big appearances, like his first cameo in 180, first full in 181, including the giant size X-Men number 1, including Wolverine number 1 of the limited series. That book has been doing crazy things over the last few years, and I always talk about next best things, right? So this is another one. If you guys can find that out there, for a solid price, I do think this is a very, very solid long-term investment that has a lot of room to grow for the short term still. But of course, anything Wolverine in the long term, I think, is solid, in my humble opinion. If we get this announcement, if we get a casting for Wolverine in the MCU. All of his stuff is going to go bananas. And spoiler alert, if you didn't see the last Multiverse of Madness trailer, it sounds like we have Patrick Stewart's voice, where we don't see his face. Could this be Charles Xavier making an appearance through the multiverse? Can Hugh Jackman maybe do the same thing? I don't know. I don't know. But moving on to number 8 on the list, of course, Moon Knight. Moon Knight is obviously super hot right now. I cannot wait for this series. This is Mark Spector Moon Knight #1, the first issue in this series. Again, similar to Wolverine. All of his big first appearances, second appearance, first solo title, first solo story, and then the first solo title in the first Moon Knight run, all those books are jumping up and up, and this is just that next best thing. Let's look at these numbers. Current 9.6 CGC fair market value sitting at $127. Next to 3 years ago, $43. This book has increased by 195% in value. Big things, folks. Average raw sale, $31. Again, late 80s book. I do believe this book came out in 1989. So hopefully, you can find a decent, higher mid-grade, fine range book. I always like to tell you all in all these videos, though, folks, don't just watch my videos and, get that FOMO running and hop onto eBay or whatnot and just go crazy and buy all these comics. Look at the books. If they're not for you, if you're not willing to take the risk, if you don't have anything vested in them, then maybe it's something that you can pass on and focus, your budgeting and how you spend and collect on something that really means something to you, so you can understand the risk with the investment and still collect what you love, right? Because that's what matters at the end of the day. All right, moving on to number 7. We got some more Fantastic Four. This is issue 244, first appearance of Frankie Ray as the new Nova. There's been a lot of speculation around this book too. Again, Heralds of Galactus. I've been talking about them for years now, just as speculation before any of them show up in the MCU. Current 9.6 CGC fair market value sitting at $338 next to 3 years ago, $114. Again, another book that's basically tripled in value almost. 196% increase with an average raw sitting at $27. So just a nice later Bronze Age book. Again, I just think this character has great potential to show up in the MCU. But as I always say, when you look at Bronze Age books and these kind of, characters that have, gone under the radar, I think that a lot of people right now that are in the hobby are just going after affordable keys of other characters that haven't been, thrown into the limelight, over the last couple of decades or so. So, moving on to book number 6 on the list. What is a top 50 under 50 without some Transformer love? I'm a big Transformers fan. This is Transformers number 8, the original Marvel series. This is the first appearance of the Dinobots in comic books. Current 9.4 CGC, fair market value sitting at about $140. 3 years ago, sitting at $43. That is a 226% increase. Wow, right? With an average raw, though, still sitting at a very affordable $15. This series alone has been picking up some steam. Again, we're aging out of these. This is, Copper Age, early Copper Age books. The original Marvel run. We've seen what's been happening with the Marvel Star Wars run. Books that have been undervalued for a long time. But, I think a lot of that has to do, obviously, with what Disney Plus has been doing for the Star Wars franchise. But Star Wars is an amazing franchise as well. And, whether or not you enjoy the Michael Bay films, I have a lot of issues with them. Besides the first one, everyone after that, I have a lot of issues. But I'm hopeful. I like what they did with Bumblebee. I'm hopeful to continue to see Transformers on the big screen. But that doesn't matter. Transformers are one of the biggest franchises out there. And I think in terms of the comic books, they're just going to keep moving upward in terms of that long term, just because of how iconic they are. And again, all of this stuff aging out, just the nostalgia. I talked about this in one of the other segments when we showed off the DuckTales book. The nostalgia of these franchises from this era is going to continue and continue to grow, in my humble opinion. All right, folks, we are halfway through the list. We only have 5 more to go. Before we do the top 5, I want to remind everyone that if you are in need of comic book supplies, please check out bcwsupplies.com. You can use the code JOURNOS and receive 10% off of your order. Remember, this code never expires. You can use it as many times as you want. And as I always say, I stand heavily behind BCW product. It's the majority of what I use. So again, save your guys some money buying some comic book supplies, 10% off using that Journos code. But let's get in to book number 5 on the list, Amazing Spider-Man number 346. This is just a classic Eric Larson Venom cover. These books from this era, after McFarlane stepped away and went and created Image, you had Larson step in, and he kind of took Venom to that next level in terms of adding, I guess you could use the word extreme because that's what the 90s were. People use that word a lot, but really adding that tongue, that more round and long tongue with the venom phlegm or whatever that is that's dripping off his teeth. He really took it to that next level, and there are a few very, very iconic covers from this era, from the Amazing Spider-Man run, and this is absolutely one of them. And you could tell what this book has been doing on the market with a current 9.6 CGC fair market value sitting at about $128, where 3 years ago it was sitting at a measly $39. It's basically just over the cost of pressing and getting it graded, or excuse me, the cost of getting it graded and slabbed, right? That's a 228% increase in value. Average raw sales still sitting at $17, so you could probably find a nice looking copy, early 90s book, $17. Man, if you could find a high grade for under 20 bucks at this point, I do think that is an amazing deal. That black cover is very, very tough to to probably get that 9.8s in, but just an awesome, awesome, iconic cover. We are moving on to number 4 on the list. We have Captain America number 25 from 2014. The first appearance of Sam Wilson as Captain America. Okay, let's look at these numbers, and then I'll talk a little bit about this. Current 9.6 CGC fair market value sitting at about $116, which still seems decently affordable for a 9.6 considering what we've seen in the MCU at this point. But look at this, 3 years ago, $32. Again, basically the cost of getting it graded and slabbed. That is a 263% increase. Wow. Average raw sitting at about $37. So this book definitely spiked, around early summer of last year with the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. Obviously, at the end of the season, we saw Sam take the mantle. He came out with that comic book accurate costume. And we also know that Captain America 4 is slated, and Sam Wilson has the Cap mantle now, and they're going to move his story arc further. So while many people might look at this book and say, well, I'm a little skeptical about this book. I don't know if it's in a volatile state on the market right now, just with what's going on with the movie and show speculation. But keep in mind, the way that we work as collectors, or as speculators, so to say, and we're speculating on this stuff, sometimes it's out of sight, out of mind. And right now, we are almost far removed from the TV show, from Falcon and Winter Soldier Season 1. And we're not really talking a lot about the Captain America 4 film. We're so focused on Moon Knight. We're so focused on Multiverse of Madness. There's so much right there in the forefront. So if you do your due diligence, if you are patient with it, and you look to see what's out there on the market, this could definitely be a decent buy because it could be cooling off right now. It could be on that dip. because I think when we see, a trailer or we get castings of the villains or we know more of what's going to be going on in that next Captain America film, I can definitely see this book continue to uptick from there. Look, it's a modern book. I think this book is going to see heavy ebb and flow probably over the next few years, up and down, up and down. But again, when you're looking at an average raw sitting at 37 for a modern book, you're probably looking at more higher grades. You're not, as long as you're not blowing a ton of money on it, as long as you're not going after that 9.8 and spending like 500, 400, 500, $600 on a 9.8, not knowing what it's going to do on the market, then you're walking on kind of quicksand there. But if you're throwing down under $40 for a nice high grade of this book, I definitely think it's a solid investment that's worth the risk. I personally do not own this book, and even for myself, I'm hesitant to pay that kind of money for it. If I found, maybe just a fine copy, I know it's a modern book, but if there was one that wasn't near mint and I could find like a fine copy for 20 bucks, I'd probably jump on that all day, every day. But for me, it's just not, I love Cap, Steve Rogers. I love what Sam Wilson is doing, but it's just nothing that I'm heavily collecting on. So even though I like investing in comics, me as a collector is how I make my final decisions. I could look at this and say this could be a solid investment and it's low risk because I'm only spending $35, $40, but as a collector, I'd rather take that $35 and $40 and buy like a Silver Age Fantastic Four run filler just because that's how I like to collect. All right, folks, we are down to the top 3 books on the list. Coming in at number 3, we have some more Moon Knight. This is Moon Knight number 13. I've talked about this recently as well. This is the first Moon Knight versus Daredevil. Could this be something that we see sooner than later in the MCU? We got the Moon Knight show coming out. We got Charlie Cox back as Matt Murdock. Current 9.6 CGC fair market value sitting at $127. 3 years ago, $33. It's a 3-year increase in value of 285% with an average raw sitting at $30. So this is another one that I think can definitely take off if we see Oscar Isaac and Charlie Cox on screen at the same time in their respective roles. This whole Moon Knight run has been continually increasing because of all the Moon Knight hype. It's absolutely crazy. But again, this is one. Look, it's a Bronze Age book. You don't need to, if you're on a budget, you don't need to go after a high grade copy or go after those 9.8 CGC or CBCS slabs or whatever. Go after a nice looking mid grade book. If you could get one for 10, 15, even under $20, I think that's a solid investment. Solid investment. All right, number 2. We are getting so close. DC, baby. Infinity Crisis number 5. This is the first appearance of Jaime Reyes as the Blue Beetle. So his first appearance was in number 3 as the Blue Beetle, number 5. Now, this is another one where it could be a bit of a volatile investment just because we know that the film, I do believe it's going to be a film made for HBO Max. Don't quote me on that. I know HBO and Warner Brothers have been changing some things up, so don't quote me on that. I don't remember the actor's name, but we know that the kid from Cobra Kai is going to be playing Jaime. So let's look at these numbers. Current 9.4 CGC fair market value sitting at $135. 3 years ago, $34. It's basically, again, increased 3 times in value, 297%. Average raw sitting at 30. So again, this is similar to, the Captain America 25. Although I do think the Captain America 25 probably has more staying power. But DC is in a really unique place right now where if they continue to do justice with their live action properties, it's going to bring people in. And I think that if this character, I said it before they even announced this film or this character, I said if they do the Blue Beetle, they have to do Jaime Reyes. And they really need to take that character and do it in a way that speaks to the wider film-going audience. If DC hits a home run with this, it can really drive this book. Or they could fall flat like they've done in the past, and maybe this book doesn't really go anywhere much further, at least, in the short term. So again, a little hesitant, but it's not a super high valued book raw, but be careful with those 9.8 slabs, folks. All right, everyone, we have one more book. It's been a journey counting down the last 49 books. I'm so excited to get into number one. But before we do, I have to take less than 60 seconds to thank and talk about today's sponsor, PopCultureZone.com. PopCultureZone.com is an online shop focusing on hot new comics, including exclusive and incentive variants, CGC graded comics, and tons of other inventory, including pop culture toys and other collectibles, all at low and competitive prices. PopCultureZone.com ships all over the US, and if you are buying raw comics, they offer flat rate shipping of only $4.99. That's right, $4.99. Absolute craziness, right? And there's no taxes included, excluding New Jersey. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they hold a 100% positive feedback rating with over 8,000 completed transactions for this year alone. Make sure to check out the link to their website below, as well as their eBay link, so be sure to give them a follow there as well. All right, everyone. I know you guys have been waiting for this, patiently waiting for this. The moment has arrived. Book number one on the top 50 key comics for under $50 is Star Wars Heir to the Empire, number 4. First cover appearance of Mara Jade. So again, this is 50 under 50. I can't put Heir to the Empire number 1, first appearance of Thrawn and Mara. But what's the next best thing here? Cover appearances, folks. Let's look at these numbers. Current 9.8 CGC fair market value sitting at $641. What did I tell you about those 9.8s right now? And Star Wars books have been going crazy. But let's look at 3 years ago, $115. That is a 457% increase in value. But look at this. For context, a current 9.6 fair market value is sitting right at about that $100 mark. So for me, if you ask me, even if I had the money, would I spend about $600 on a 9.8 or $100 on a 9.6? I'd buy that 9.6. Absolutely. Average raw sales sitting at $37. So again, not too crazy, but Star Wars, when you talk about staying power, man, I can't say, and there's so much I could say about Star Wars and what they're doing right now, and I still think it's only the beginning. I really do. I do believe that Mara Jade is going to show up somewhere, most likely on Disney Plus at some point. I just, the future wife of Luke Skywalker, I don't know if they would go that route, but they've already shown, and again, spoilers for if you haven't watched Boba Fett, but they're really taking the Luke Skywalker character to the next level, where, he was in a couple of episodes, and in one of the episodes, and almost all the episodes in its entirety, using, I don't know what the technical reference is to how they do the face swap, with the CGI, where they're taking Mark Hamill's face and really making it Mark Hamill, where they're taking Mark Hamill's voice and using his voice. Will they do something like get a Sebastian Stan, who is basically his twin, and actually recast Luke Skywalker so they can continue his story during that time? We have Obi-Wan coming back. We have Anakin as Darth Vader coming back during that era, between the prequels and in the original films. Can we continue to see more of Luke during the New Republic era, to where we see him before how we saw him in the sequel trilogy just recently in theaters? Can they do that with CGI? Can they do it with just recasting him, or a little bit of both? I don't know. At this point, with what they're doing, I wouldn't be mad if they did. And I think Mara Jade could be an absolutely big part of that. So For all those Star Wars fans out there, again, if there's deals to be had on these books, I do think it is a good time. Again, that's just my humble opinion. All right, folks, it's been absolutely amazing. A couple things before we go. I have a trivia question for you guys, but before I do that, I do have to thank all of my wonderful members, starting with my Patreon members. Thank you all again, month after month, for the support. If anyone else is interested in supporting the channel via Patreon for only $3.99 a month, the link is in the description below. You get early access to videos like these. You get exclusive Q&A videos every month and other perks. And I also do patron-only giveaway contests. But I also have to thank all of my YouTube channel members. You could join for only $1.99 a month by clicking that join button below, and you get extra perks there as well, including early access and special contests as well. All right, everyone. Last but not least, are you ready for this trivia question? We know that Oscar Isaac is going to be playing Mark Spector Moon Knight in the Disney Plus show that we're going to be seeing in the near future. We all can't wait. Today's question is this: Oscar Isaac had his breakthrough role in what film? Have fun, guys. Good luck in the contest. Again, big thank you to mycomicshop.com for sponsoring the contest with that $50 gift card. Thank you to popculturezone.com for sponsoring the video. Thank you all for the support and for watching. Be well, and until next time.